Now, there's a real fear here that in 10 years,
Correct.
fill it in.
10 years, there could be no more elephants in the wild because every 15 minutes, one is being killed.
That's the crazy part to me,
It
just
is.
to get the ivory test. Like,
Exactly.
Why do we need that?
We do not need that, but I think there's two things. There's a lack of awareness, which is why I made the documentary, because I think people are unaware that it's happening. They might see an ivory bracelet and think, isn't that pretty, and buy it, not knowing that this is actually driving elephants to extinction.
How did you become so connected to the elephants?
Well, very luckily for me, I happened to be in the right place at the right time in 2009, and I found an orphan baby elephant. Chaimu is her name. I got her to Daphne at the elephant nursery, which is called the David Sheldrick Wildlife Trust in Nairobi. And Chaimu is now living again out in the wild in one of the national parks.
All right, that's a great story.
Yeah.
And as we're looking at some footage here, we don't know how many of these little baby elephants actually die out there.
Correct.
You don't find a lot of them,
Right.
maybe most of them. The ones you do find and bring back and nurse, it's a 50-50 proposition that
Right.
they'll live because of issues like socialization and health. Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. Elephants are a lot like humans, so they're really emotional and they're very connected to their mothers. There's a study that every 3 seconds the mother and the baby touch. So when they see their whole family killed and their mother killed, they're so traumatized that they don't really want to live, which is why the nursery is so important, because there are other elephants there and they speak to each other with voices that sometimes are too low for us to even hear, but also sometimes we can hear them interacting.
And the men sleeping,
keepers.
and the keepers sleeping with them, and
24/7. So
it
they
was
need someone
so
with
touching.
them 24/7. And there is hope, and that's what's important, and that's the other reason I made the documentary. Daphne and the Trust have raised 170 orphan elephants and re-released them into the wild.
And then the great part is that when they actually can mate,
Exactly.
and then have their own.
Exactly. So they're now mating with wild elephants. They have little grandchildren
How do
even.
they acclimate into another herd?
You know, they don't really acclimate into another herd. They create a herd of ex-orphans, which they didn't know would happen. They didn't know what would happen when they started. They don't really re-release them. The elephant gets to choose when it goes back into the wild. But they've made little family groups out of ex-orphans, and then the wild elephants are attracted to them and come and mate with them. And then the male elephant doesn't really raise the children. The females do.
Right.
So it's a matriarchal society, and we have 10 matriarchs that have been raised by the Trust and re-released out in the wild and are repopulating Tsavo National Park.
But give us the population numbers.
In overall African elephants, there are about 300,000 left.
Used to be
10 million.
10 years ago there were
10 years ago,
half
there
a
were
million or so?
probably 1.5 million,
a
I
million
want
and a
to
half.
say. Yeah,
So we're really
it's
talking about
desperate.
decimation here.
Yes.
Now we're looking at the ivory, and you wonder, you say, okay, we know this story. Why do people want to have ivory? Why is China, for instance, the largest user of it?
I think there's a tradition in China of ivory being a prestige item. So the the statues and the carvings. So the people the middle class that are being kind of, newly getting money in China are replicating what their parents
So they
thought
want
of.
that.
So we need to change the thinking.
There's another issue you bring up here, because this is a very fair-minded documentary.
I tried.
There's one guy who lives right outside the park named Stephen, and he basically says on camera, look, this has always been our land, our ground. If we don't have food, we have empty stomachs and families, we're going to go in and do something, be it ivory or meat or whatever it is, and that, even though they don't get very much money for
Correct.
it becomes worth a lot up the chain.
Absolutely.
That's subsistence. So what do you say to that?
Well, we have a lot of programs with the community that we're working on where we're including them in the conservation of the parks, because this really is their history and tradition as well. And it's short-sighted. Obviously, he's only thinking about feeding his family, but tourism is huge in Kenya. It is keeping a lot of people from being in poverty. So it doesn't benefit anyone to kill
But it's hard
these
to explain
animals.
to people the
It
larger
is,
issue
of
when they're
course.
hungry.
No, of course. And so what we're doing, we have a beekeeping situation, which is really amazing because elephants are afraid of bees.
Right.
So we have this great program where the community keeps bees along the fence that protects the community from the park and the park from the community. And the elephants won't go near there to, ruin the farms and everything because they're afraid of bees. So the community keeps the fence whole, keeps the bees, makes money from selling the honey, and it's kind of a win-win for everyone.
ingenious, yeah.
We're doing more of that.
Okay, so can I now, or are you going to?
Here's the transition to make. It's really disgusting.
I can't wait.
Much as elephants never forget,
True.
no one will forget Sex in the City.
No, there it is.
How's that for a
Good
transition?
one. Good
Okay.
one. Good
For
one.
me, he used to make fun of the people like me for whom this was a religion.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I still make fun of
He
it.
still makes fun,
Yeah.
right? Because
That's your job. That's
he
fine.
has to, right?
You can make fun. It's fine.
But is there possibly one last story to tell?
Sure. I mean, I think there's always another story to tell. I find that a funny question because
Yeah.
these are 4 women. Of course, there'd be another story. What's happening in their lives?
Is it financially doable at this point?
Yeah.
Can you make money from it?
Oh, yes.
So
What are
why
you
is
talking
it-
about?
why
We're
aren't you
still
do-
making money.
Why
We're
aren't-
totally happy.
Why aren't you doing another one right now?
Well, that's a good question. If I could give the green light right now, I would. I
Yes.
don't know why we're not making another one right this
Right.
very second. I hope we will. I think there's, weird things that go on with the studio I can't explain. Anyone who's listening who wants to call in and explain, go ahead. But also all of us, I just saw Sarah and Michael Patrick last week. It's wonderful. We love to see each other. We're all doing well. It's great. But I think nothing in our careers really will live up to Sex and the City in a
Sure.
way, and so it would be amazing
Well,
to get back together.
it was an event. It was like the Super Bowl for a lot of women.
As he points to me and every other woman in the studio.
Making plans long in advance to go see it.
So sweet.
It was everything.
know.
Was it any good?
It was fantastic.
Okay, all
It
right.
was everything, Steve. It was everything. It taught us how to dress and how to drink and how to
my.
have sex, right?
I don't know. I don't know about that.
We got to go, but I got to get
Okay.
my Jimmy Choo's and my mojito.
No,
Manolos. I didn't know
Cosmo.
if you were going for the drink or for the whatever.
It's a Cosmo.
It's very,
We
what is it?
drank
It's a
Cosmos
Manolo-
and we wore Manolos.
You drink the
It's a
Manolo
lot of
and you-
words.
okay.
I totally understand.
More important, Gardeners of Eden will air a week from tonight on Pivot
You
TV.
must see it. You must see.
Yeah,
It's-
you got to
it's-
see it.
Thank you.
gotta
Thank
see
you
it.
so much.
Your
The
heart's
David
out
Sheldrick
there.
Wildlife Trust is the group
Okay.
that raises the baby elephants, and thank you
You're
for having
terrific.
me. You are.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank